Weapons is a 2025 American mystery horror film written, co-produced, and directed by Zach Cregger. When all but one child from a single classroom vanish without a trace at the exact same time at 2:17 a.m. one night, the entire community is left grappling with fear and uncertainty, desperate to uncover who or what is behind the mass disappearance. All right, so I got to see Weapons, which is, as of right now, one of probably the most hyped film to go and see in theaters. I mean, I haven't seen this much hype since probably like Sinners, but I have to say, in my opinion, the hype is very, very much real. This was a very terrific film that I got to see a couple of nights ago. I was not able to see it at the 2:17 showtime at my local theater, which is really cool that they do that. I don't know if it's like a nationwide thing, but I think that's a really cool showtime to have. And of course, in the context of the film, the kids leave at 2:17 a.m., so I think that's really cool. But I did get to see this at night, which I think for a horror film is probably like the best experience if you just want to feel like super immersed into that type of atmosphere. But yeah, I mean, regardless, I'm thankful enough that I got to see the film. Weapons, like I said, is amazing. There was a massive bidding war for this film that New Line Cinema eventually won. I guess New Line has like a really good reputation with horror films, but they won against Universal, Netflix, Sony, I think too. But what was probably the most incredible thing that I've read about, and I think a lot of people know this too now, is that apparently Jordan Peele, I'm not sure if it's directly correlated with him losing the bidding war, but Jordan Peele apparently fired his management for maybe, perhaps, I'm not too sure, but for losing. It was like a $38 million deal. But yeah, I mean, insiders have called this like an unprecedented deal in modern times. They've likened it to that of M. Night Shyamalan horror films post The Sixth Sense. And so, yeah, I mean, everybody really wanted a piece of this spec script. And yeah, it makes sense. This film is, I've said it, I've already said it, I should probably just get into the review itself, but it is incredible. It immediately pulls you in with very chilling and suffocating atmosphere, and it never lets you go throughout. I was highly engaged throughout the entire runtime of this film. And it's an experience that is as unsettling as it is rewarding in the end. It blends horror, mystery, psychological thriller, dark humor too. Apparently Zach Cregger, I don't know if he wrote a comedy show or if he was part of a comedy troupe. I'm not too particularly sure, but he has some comedic background similar to that of Jordan Peele. And yeah, I mean, I heard about that and I wasn't expecting this film to be as funny as it is. It never forces humor. It really just happens in the moment and within the characters' dialogues and stuff. So that was very nice. And yeah, it does it in a way that's both unique, not just with comedy, but like the horror genre itself. It does it in a way that's so unique, but also so unpredictable. And yeah, I mean, this movie has drawn comparisons to Longlegs, which is directed by Oz Perkins, who is another sort of like relatively new up-and-coming filmmaker in the horror genre. The Black Phone, which is also about kids missing. And then, of course, Barbarian, which was the directorial debut of Zach Cregger. It was his film right before this one. But yeah, I mean, the fact that this is his sophomore effort is actually insane. Weapons is built around this very disturbing central concept involving sorcery and blood rituals. And it keeps you guessing from start to finish. There's even like there's like even a biblical reference. And for the longest time, I kept wondering to myself, why specifically 2:17 a.m.? I mean, that's a pretty interesting time. But I read online that, so basically one of the characters whose son goes missing, his name is Matthew. And apparently in the Bible, Matthew 2:17, that verse basically describes the fulfillment of the massacre of children, labeled the slaughter of the innocents. So that's obviously very creepy, but now I understand that 2:17 was definitely an intentional choice. But yeah, of course, masterful direction from Zach Cregger, with meticulous attention to detail, creating a world that feels both familiar and also disturbingly alien in a way. It features a strong standout standout lead performance from Julia Garner, who has definitely made her name known in Hollywood as of this year too. She's been incredible. Like, she has such a great filmography even before this, but with Wolfman, which came out at the beginning of the year, to of course Fantastic Four: First Steps, to now playing the lead in this film, Weapons. She's done such an amazing job, and I hope she obviously has a busy line of work ahead of her throughout the rest of her career, because she's genuinely amazing. I know her from Ozark, and if you've seen Ozark, you know how phenomenal her performance is in that. So, of course, I'm just really glad to see her in this film. And the ensemble cast, too, just perfectly synchronized, perfectly cast. We have Josh Brolin, who plays that dad. And each of them add depth to the complex narrative. Apparently, I read somewhere Pedro Pascal was meant to be in this film, and I think he was going to play Josh Brolin's role. I mean this in the most sincerest and, of course, kindest way possible, but thank God he's not in this film. I mean, he's already been in so many movies this year, and of course, like, the reason why he wasn't in this film was because of scheduling conflicts, which makes sense. But, I mean, had he been in this film along with the other movies he's already in too, it's just, I think I'm experiencing what's called Pedro Pascal fatigue. I'm not sure if that's a real, it's like a phenomenon at this point, but yeah, I mean, that guy, he's a seriously good actor, but he's been in way too many movies. And I think it's kind of true what, I don't necessarily agree with anything that film Twitter has to say, but one thing that I have seen that's a bit recurring is that Hollywood recycles the same actors over and over again. And when you see Pedro Pascal, you kind of have to, it's hard to disagree with that statement, because yeah, I mean, they just really love Mr. Pascal. But anyways, perfect casting all the way around. And yeah, like I mentioned, they each add their own depth to the narrative. And more specifically, what I mean by that is this film has a split narrative across multiple characters. And it adds depth, and it gives the audience clearer view of the bigger picture. It does a narrative structure that's very similar to Magnolia, which is that Paul Thomas Anderson film. And you just, of course I won't spoil, but you could just see things from every character's perspective. I always love those types of films. I think it's very intriguing. What else? Sorry. But yeah, and then the script itself, it's a very tightly constructed puzzle box of a script. I think Zach Cregger did an amazing job. I saw an interview of how he was explaining it. He was basically he literally thinks about it as he writes, which I know that sounds obviously that makes sense, but most script writers know the entire story before they even write a single word. But with Zach Cregger, apparently his only initial thought was a girl narrating at the very beginning, and then from there he thought about, okay, this girl attends school, and then from there he thought, okay, about a teacher that enters a classroom, and then the classroom's empty. And from there, he just kept building on. And I find that to be very impressive. You have to have a very creative mindset. I'm sure he reached writer's block a couple of moments, but I don't know. I just found it very respectable, especially from a writing perspective. But yeah, the script itself is rich with subtext and deliberate clues that reward attentive viewers. I definitely want to see this film again. I definitely want to see the different types of things that I might have missed out on, because this is brilliantly made. And it includes moments of shocking violence and very gruesome imagery. One of them involving a certain kitchen item that really left a lasting impression on me. And then there's another one that is so crazy. This film, I remember I watched this with a friend, and we were both saying to each other after watching this film, it's a crazy, crazy film. Especially the ending, it's just so crazy. That's the best way to describe it. It's really an experience you obviously have to see, do for yourself. And yeah, I know from what I've heard of early screenings, it sparked lots of laughter, lots of gasps and praise. And the film initially it debuted at a perfect Rotten Tomatoes score of 100%. Right now, it sits at 95%. That's obviously very impressive. And of course, the score doesn't indicate the score, the percentage doesn't indicate the score of the movie. 95% doesn't necessarily mean that the average of all critics thinks it's a 9.5 out of 10. That just means 95% of critics like the film. That's basically what it means. And yeah, I think Weapons, for fans of horror and psychological thrillers, I think Weapons stands as one of the most original and emotionally intense films in recent years. I've never had a film like stuck rent free in my mind in a very long time like this film. I genuinely think this is gonna be crazy now, but I gotta put it out there. I do prefer this film over Sinners, which I think Sinners is hailed right now and probably still is. I know some people don't think Weapons beats it, but Sinners right now is held as like the best picture of the year so far. But I genuinely think I liked Weapons over Sinners, and I mean, it's just incredible, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, I've been glazing this film long enough. The only critique I might have for this film is probably the ending. The ending, it's a bit unsatisfactory. It doesn't necessarily have the resolution that you might expect, but I do think overall it fits the tone and the ambition that this film possesses. So I can't really be too hard on it. And then, of course, like the characters themselves, even though it's like a narrative structure where you get to explore each character's journey, you don't really know much about their background, and they don't really, like, you kind of know them on a surface level. They don't really expand beyond these 2 to 3 character traits that you're just given. Even like Julia Garner's character, she's a teacher. You know a bit about her, but it's like, it could be like 2 sentences on a Wikipedia page. You don't know insanely a lot, which I think a lot of people might have issues with that. They'll be like, oh, the characters are so baseless. They have no depth to them whatsoever. But at the end of the day, I feel like this movie is more about the scares and more about the story than really anything else. I don't think this is meant to be a character study by any means, and I kind of just enjoyed that. And yeah, I mean, I guess I'll end this review by saying what I interpret the meaning of Weapons to be, or what the title is. There's actually quite an interesting metaphor. There's this specific moment that happens during a dream sequence where the character hallucinates a weapon, but I remember even after finishing the film, I was like, what could that mean? What does this interpret or indicate? But I think the reason it's called Weapons is because people, and especially the characters in this film, are weaponized against each other. I mean, you see it in the very beginning and in the trailer, everybody immediately shifts blame to the teacher, even though, like, you see these kids just walking out of their homes. And I think it just goes to show when something supernatural happens, something illogical or irrational, we just sort of like shift and put all our energy and all our blame into this either one person or one thing, just because like we're so in disbelief I think it's just human nature at that point. Everyone just needs something to blame or someone to blame, because we just feel so powerless. But yeah, I mean, that's just my 2 piece, but I'm gonna give Weapons a 9 out of 10. Like I said, this is a very terrific film. I've seen some people say they were disappointed because, oh, I thought it'd be scarier. Oh, this is overhyped. I mean, I just disagree, to be honest. I think this is a genuinely good film. And I think people will take it for granted because people are just gonna like say, oh, well, there are multiple horror films that have come out in recent years. But I think this really pushes, I don't know, it's just a highly entertaining film. I've already said my piece. I can't just expand on it even more. I already have, but I think this is a genuinely good film. I really hope it doesn't go forgotten, because this is, again, one of the best horror films I've seen in recent years. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Hope you enjoyed. See ya.